Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to speak about the subject of what harsh truths you prefer to ignore. I think that all of us as human beings, we have self-defense mechanisms, which basically means that there's some things that we just literally decide to ignore. And if we didn't ignore them, well, we'd go nuts. And an example is some people would say they wish they would have, for example, a memory that would be so flawless that they'd be able to tell everything that happens to them, that they could remember every second, every minute, every action that they've taken. And it's kind of in some way not good, because there are some savants that can actually do that. And I did see a documentary recently about savants, and there was this guy that could actually do that. He could remember all his days, what he did, what he ate, literally to the T. He just remembered every single thing. And he's like, well, sometimes it's very depressive to know all that stuff, because the problem is you realize how much time you basically waste. You realize, how many times have I done this? For 5,679 times I've had a banana at this time, at this particular moment. And it kind of gets depressive in some way, because now there are no new experiences. Everything is old and everything is kind of trivial. And if you realize that, you know that this day and that day and this day you wasted a bit of time, and it all accumulates to 10,000 hours in a year, we'll say, then you're like, whoa, okay, well, now I just wasted all that time when I could have been proactive and stuff like that. And then at the same time, there's this whole thing where again, I've spoken sometimes about nostalgia and stuff like that, and I do feel that there is this thing where we change our memory sometime. We add details to it, we forget some details, and we also romanticize some memories. And I think that's why a lot of times people think about the olden days, the times when they were kids and all that stuff, and they remember them fondly. It basically almost changes us for the rest of our life. But I think that a lot of it is because it's romanticization. The 80s were not better than the 90s. You might have been better financially and stuff like that, but as a whole, we're still in the same world. And the colors didn't look different in those days. Things might have been painted differently, and the clothes might have been different. So yeah, the colors of those would have been different, but the way the grass was, the way the basically wind blew through the trees and all these things, it was still there. Now, I do agree on the fact that usually as a kid and all that, your family's complete. A lot of times, it depends, but like you're still kind of protected for most people, and you have both your parents and grandparents and all these things, and life is beautiful in some way because you haven't had those pains. So everything is just wonderful, and you're also discovering the whole world with, your first ice cream, your first movie, your first comic strip, your first toy, and all these things. So it's a discovery, but at the same time, well, why can't you discover them now? Then all the time would be the beautiful days, the best days, because you're discovering things, and you just have to accept that the times are always changing, that things are always changing, that the world is always rotating, and whether you're alive, you're dead, whether other people are alive or dead, the world still continues. And even when the earth will be done, when it'll get too hot and all life on earth will die, well, the earth will still rotate. And even when the sun will absorb the earth because it's growing so big and it starts melting and all that stuff erupts, well, the rest of the universe keeps on going, and everything will keep on going. And even if there was to be a big bang and then a retraction and all that stuff, kind of like an elastic that keeps on expanding and eventually can't expand more and it breaks and it collapses, well, it would just collapse again, and it might create another bang. And that's the beauty of it, is that everything is ever going, everything is ever changing, and the form that we have now is not the form that we have in the future. And there's a lot of things that we do to ignore these things, because a lot of people live life as if basically there was never going to be death. People live in that kind of way, and it's kind of scary because, well, you're living very dangerously when you live that way, because you basically are choosing to ignore some things, and you're being very positive about others, but you're only living in the now, where in reality it's true, you do only have the now, but you also have to be smart about these things, because if you only live in the now and you destroy your body, well, you only have one body. Some things can heal, but some other things can't heal, and that's the problem. And then at the same time, you have to be kind of flexible enough so that you can actually just keep on going, keep on doing things, keep on living, keep on not ignoring stuff. And some things do need to be ignored, I guess. If you've had a terrible experience, if something that really has changed you deep down in your body, well, sometimes the protection, the way that you can survive, is only if you decide to ignore it. You decide that you need to move past it, because that experience was so bad that if you let it take over you, well, then your life is destroyed. And I think those are the people that manage to survive. Those are the people that manage to procreate. Those are the people that manage to have the best out of the things, is by either forgetting about these things or not forgetting about them, but dealing with them and being able to move forward on them. And it's very hard to do, because sometimes you might have had some very bad experiences and you can't calculate when those things will happen. But if you were in a war, you had a very tragic experience and stuff like that, it's things that you don't normally willingly go into it. Even when you join the army and stuff like that, you might be willingly joining the army, but nothing can prepare you for what it's going to be. And again, I'm also talking from someone who hasn't been in a war, or hasn't been traumatized, or I've been traumatized, but in different ways, and you overcome the things, and sometimes you can fall back. But I do think that by protecting ourselves, by not thinking about these things, well, you tend to be able to live a better life. You tend to be able to do things better. You tend to be able to overcome things. And that is very, very important, at least if you want to have a pleasant life. And forgive too, because I've said it many times before, I do feel that sometimes life is kind of a farce. It's kind of not as important as we make it up to be. And it's important to also take things with a grain of salt, and it's important to enjoy the moments that you have, because everything can be enjoyable, and well, not everything can be enjoyable, but a lot of things can be enjoyable, and a lot of times it's up to you to decide whether you want something to be bad or want something to be good. But some things just can't be changed, and you better be strong in this life, because we protect ourselves with a lot of dreams and a lot of things, but the world is harsh and it's very random. Things can just happen in a split second, and whatever you've built, whatever you've tried to do, it can just disappear just like that. Okay, well, that's it. That's all I have to say. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.